have nothing to do with your state of mind or your neurology or your psychology. They have to do with physiology. This is a space that has to be segregated by biological sex. If you were able to take a female athlete and transplant her brain or her consciousness into the body of LeBron James, she would not be fit to play in the WNBA. And I will submit to you that, if Leah Thomas, for example, if this Leah Thomas experiment was playing out in basketball, we would not be having this conversation because the physical disparity would be so glaring in terms of size, speed, agility, that no one watching this will think that this is a fair competition. And for all of us to pretend that it is infantilizing. It would be a lie. And the vast majority of people watching would know that. I think it would invite more of a counter reaction against trans acceptance, to expect people to play along with this in this case when it comes to sports. If people feel pressured that they have to applaud someone who they don't feel deserves this recognition, that's going to have negative consequences, whether seen or unseen by the person who is playing in the game. Of course, this isn't, in the case of sports, this isn't a problem that the vast majority of the country would have to deal with. You mentioned that this is for only 4 students that are in question in the bill that you mentioned. So those 4 students, like I said, you would have to evaluate how the reaction to their playing in their local teams would come back on them. But then, even if it's just only 4, depending on how far they pursue their sports, goals, as long as they are competing against, people who are against girls who are, let's say, training at the same level as they are. So obviously, because you're transgender doesn't guarantee that you're always going to win, because obviously there's a lot of factors beyond that. How hard you train. But if you have, a transgender woman and a biological woman with the same level of training regimen, then you can easily conclude that the trans woman is going to have an advantage and is going to win out most of the time. So there's only 4 in the state. So maybe that's not a problem. That is not a problem that even in the most permissive trans policy, this isn't a problem that, the vast majority of sports leagues across the country are going to have to deal with. But once you start aggregating, going up the chain of accomplishments, then you're going to see those transgender athletes get a more prominent role in the victories of these sports competitions. In Connecticut, 2 trans high school track athletes began competing in the women's team in 2017. They did that on 2017, 2018, and 2019. And in that time, they took 15 state track championship titles. In the previous year, talking about 2 transgender students. In the previous year, those titles were held by 9 different girls. So those are life paths that get altered. Those are, those could have been scholarships for those girls. That's harm. So what I would get back to is that we have a balance. Well, in one sense, there is a lot we can do to accommodate transgender people. And like I said, to give them support and perhaps make life comfortable for them. But I think there is a line that at some point we need to draw. And I think sports is where we have to say, okay, now this is intruding on other people's interests and well-being too. And we have to balance those competing harms. I'm not sure where we should stand. Obviously, this is a conversation it's kind of in its early stages. Well, this is going to be discussed for a long time, but I think we need to not lose sight of the fact that there's more than one There's more than one side to this.
We'll continue our conversation with our friend Holden, subscriber and longtime supporter of Heard Tell, right after this.
Only one candidate for clerk of court has the experience needed to keep our courts running efficiently and criminals off our streets. That candidate is conservative Republican Catherine Adams. Adams has a 20-year record of accomplishments, including serving as Deputy Director of the North Carolina Administrative Office of the Courts, where she was responsible for the oversight of the human resources and financial management for all 6,200 employees of the state court system and personally managed hundreds of employees and tens of millions of taxpayer dollars. She's also been awarded the state's highest civilian award, the Order of the Longleaf Pine, for her public service. That's why Clerk of Court Jim McCallum says Catherine Adams is the one person most qualified to be our next Clerk of Court. Early voting begins on April 28th, and the primary election is on May 17th. So remember to vote for experience, vote for leadership, vote for qualifications, and vote for proven conservative Republican Catherine Adams for Brunswick Clerk of Court.
Paid for by the Committee to elect Catherine Adams Clerk of Court.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you are a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country